Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Who would be the bigger NFL honors snub? Sam Darnold or Kevin O'Connell?
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, and I'm deep into the FanDuel Super Bowl props. It's bad for me.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan with the Wide Left Substack. I've nominated Luke Braun for Least Improved Player.
I'll take that bet. What's going on, Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman? Got our first day 3 sleeper prospect for the Vikes on today's episode.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
What's up, and welcome to our Thursday edition of the Minnesota Football Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota. So glad you're with us. Vikings talk for the next hour. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen today. For your second one, check out Locked On Vikings with Luke Braun and find our audio on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet $5. If you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Might be useful for the big game on Sunday. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Before the show is over, we will preview free agent wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings. Luke Inman will give us what sounds like a day 3 prospect of the day. My tease about the NFL honors will be paid off. Bigger snub, Kevin O'Connell or Sam Darnold. Plus, J.J. McCarthy makes controversial comments to Rich Eisen. What do they mean? Let's put on our interpreter hats for that. Plus, we are going to craft a $10,000 Super Bowl parlay that you can tail if you want. Probably a sure thing to win. Let's give a 5-second laugh. This will be a great payoff for anybody who watched yesterday's show. I froze in real time on yesterday's show.
Let's take a look.
Camera angle. This is what the camera angle still looks like a day later. There we go.
Fantastic stuff.
Still frozen. So we are rolling.
Outstanding.
So good. What is that? 4K? Beautiful.
8K, 16.
It's like it's a cheeky look. It's very sly.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to include that in like the thumbnail. You know?
Yeah. What is that? Blue steel? Magna? What look is that?
I'm that's going to be part of my headshots collection for all the
play the
modeling
sound
agencies.
every time you clip to that. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Some kind of horror movie riff, maybe. Mm-hmm. So J.J. McCarthy goes on Rich Eisen, and he was more maybe, I don't know, honest or pessimistic about where he stands. I want to read the thread from Kevin Seifert to offer the full context in case you missed it. By the way, Rich Eisen, great show. I know Inman's a big fan as well. Inman probably watched this whole thing. So he says, with him and Kevin O'Connell, our conversations have just been about nothing but the greatest thing for the Minnesota Vikings. At the end of the day, there are a lot of things that are certainly above my pay grade, some things above his. He's the one that has the pen last on the field, and that's about all I know. All I can ask for is a fair opportunity. That's the one thing that I feel like everybody's given, and it's fundamental. When money gets involved, things get complicated, and reps get skewed. There's different things that come into the whole political world that everyone talks about. I really just have to focus on controlling what I can control. My feelings don't matter. I'm not getting any grace. There's no sympathy. This is the big leagues. I mean, he used every buzzword there that would indicate that there's more. He's not being handed the job. And I'm sitting here thinking that, all right, we're almost a month removed from the end of the season. I feel like the Vikings have made their decision. I believe they've made their choice in their hearts. And my guess is that's probably been communicated to the parties involved. Like, I bet Darnold has a pretty clear idea of what's next for him, which means McCarthy has a clear idea of what's next for him. But he's talking about things above his pay grade.
Sam, I don't think there's anything here.
Politics,
you're running directly counter to what Albert Breer said elsewhere on the Rich Eisen show in the same episode.
Well, I'm not talking about Albert. I'm talking about
he reported like the exact opposite.
You are talking
of that,
about
though.
JJ McCarthy, which Albert also talked about.
Yeah.
Using reporting.
Yeah,
right.
He reported that like it's all still considering and there's this and that. Yeah,
right. And also, Sam. So I just, not to cut you off, but I think reading that thread and watching the interview are two very different experiences, because watching the interview, seeing him talk about it doesn't track that way, the way that he's talking about it. It is not a suggestion to me, based off of how he's talking, that the decision has already been made and that he is finding ways to come to terms with it using this particular terminology. But I think that this is just how McCarthy talks, like, generally. Like, when you give us the show notes, I actually ended up opening the email, so props to me, I think. Congratulations.
Wow.
Oh, did anybody have
everyone's
that on
in
their prop?
Super Bowl mode?
Did anybody have that on their prop list?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Well, I needed something to do while I was writing my piece. But I opened the email, and then I go over to the Rich Eisen show, and I watch the full interview, which is crazy, in an unreal amount of prep. And I was like, why does Sam want me to watch this? There is nothing here to talk about. And I guess it hits different when you read the tweet thread in isolation, because McCarthy just talks like this. He is one of the most outstandingly professional interviewers I've ever seen. That's my only takeaway, really, from that interview. But also that he like, I read a lot of the comments, the YouTube comments, which always a bad decision, but in this case, not too bad. And we also already have a commenter here who said the same thing a lot of those YouTube commenters say, which is just that he sounds a lot like Kevin O'Connell when he talks, which I think is true. He also sounds a lot like Jim Harbaugh when he talks.
Yeah.
And I think that is just that's what we're seeing.
That's really cute.
Weird combination. It is. It's actually adorable.
Yeah,
but we're seeing this combination of like what happens when you kind of combine these two coachisms into an interview, which is somebody who is like, my fate is what it is, which is actually how he's talked since high school, if we're being honest. But my fate is what it is. All I can do is control what I can control. I am not going to make a statement about what my role is. That is going to happen, kind of with or without, my prediction. So all I can do is just, control my reps on the field. So I actually, watching that interview, I don't see any indication that he is suggesting that the Vikings are moving in one direction or the other. I think it's just, hey, all I can do is play good football. And if that results in me starting, that's awesome, is the takeaway I got.
Yeah, I think we do this a lot with quotes, especially when someone like goes on a podcast. It's not like a podium quote, but even a little bit with that sometimes. When you see the way that people talk, like in a conversational setting, written out word for word, it is so easy to like take the tone out of context and misunderstand the tone. That's like when we text each other as people, we use like a different version of English than when we talk as people. And it's so easy to like misconstrue tone. But yeah, if you watch that, to me, I was like, oh, that's a pretty mature outlook on what is a situation that could be kind of difficult. Guy gets drafted first round. Now this other guy that was supposed to be the bridge is maybe taking the job. You don't know. What if they're going to pay him and not give you reps? Like there's these anxieties, and he seems aware of, but accepting of those, like the brutal realities of the sport. And I just thought, oh, well, that was a pretty mature outlook on that thing. I definitely didn't get a vibe that he like already knows. I got a vibe that maybe he's a little worried that Sam Darnold played really well and he's not going to get to play because Sam Darnold's playing too well. That would suck as a guy who's been the golden boy since he was 14 years old.
So, Inman, do you think the Vikings know at this point? They got about a month until real decisions get made, about a month since the season ended, kind of right in the middle of this 2-month window. Do you think the Vikings know?
I think they've got their plan A, plan B, plan C ready to roll. What order that looks like, I don't know. I don't think anything has changed, though, in the last couple weeks that J.J. McCarthy went on the Rich Eisen show. Like both Luke and Arif mentioned, that is kind of maybe new information, if you will, and pending what happens to Darnold, obviously, that'll be the first domino to fall in that plan A, plan B, plan C. But JJ just needs to keep preparing and doing everything he can to be the starter because his time will come. Right? Well, whether it's week 1, week 5, 2026, his time's going to come, I think, sooner than later. And me personally, I still think it's him and Daniel Jones next year in camp battling it out for the starting job. That's just my gut as of today. Nothing changed after watching that J.J. McCarthy interview. In fact, I agree with a lot of what Luke and Arif mentioned. Like, the best part of the interview was just getting to listen to J.J. McCarthy speak publicly again for what feels like forever. And I think he's just got a great head on his shoulder. He just turned 22 last month. He just handles himself with a lot of maturity and professionalism already. And Arif touched on this, but when you look at his path from IMG Academy, Michigan with Harbaugh, now a full year with KOC, you can just tell he's absorbed a lot of good information at every stop, and it's just kind of helped him understand what his job is and how to be a professional, controlling what you can control. But I think they've got plan A, plan B, plan C ready. I don't think anything's changed drastically at all in the last couple of weeks since their season ended. And I personally, if I was putting money on it, I think it's Daniel Jones and J.J. McCarthy battling when training camp starts. That's just my gut.
Yeah.
Also, McCarthy said he was ahead of schedule. That like near the top of the interview. So
Yeah, which also was corroborated by the Albert Breer report from Radio Row.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really too bad he got shelved the entire year because having those live reps every week and the coach and GM were able to watch him throw with their own 2 eyes and see some growth and development on the field, I think his chances, quote unquote, of starting would maybe be even doubled. But I still think he's going to get full opportunity to go out there and win that job and take it on his own. And I don't think the knee is going to play any type of factor from everything I've heard from, we've talked about this, Luke, you kind of broke it down. Like, don't worry about the knee anymore. Like, I don't think that's going to be a factor. I think it's going to be a moot point by the time the pads get put on, come summertime. But, it didn't help him any, I guess, winning the starting job, I feel like, from the front office and coach's lens when you can't evaluate the on-the-field stuff. But there's a lot more that goes into quarterback than just the on-the-field stuff too sometimes, right? Like all the great intangibles that he has off the field, saying the right things, controlling what he can control. I think he does sound like KOC and Harbaugh quite a bit. And by the way, you guys buried the lead. If you watch the full Rich Eisen interview, I mean, JJ came out and basically publicly admitted for the first time he is who he is because of his sleep number bet as well. So don't forget that as well. Because
I've never seen a more insane product placement in an interview before.
That was crazy. ADHD? Okay, whatever. And also, Eisen set him up for it, and he kind of missed the cue.
Tossed him a softball, kind of missed it. Yeah,
and it was kind of cute seeing him be like, Rookie. Eisen, that's why you're the GOAT.
Rookie mistake. But needs some reps. He needs some reps.
I do recommend watching the interview just to hear him discuss what he did to prepare every week as a non-playing quarterback. He called it like busy work, and I think maybe that wasn't necessarily the phrase he wanted to use. Was probably the most available phrase he wanted that he had, but he talked about the week-to-week prep, about getting a dossier on every defensive coordinator the Vikings were playing that year, and how he's planning to fill that out for every defensive coordinator in the league this offseason, so that he has a good understanding of every defensive coordinator's tendencies. And he's like, you got to do that week to week, and I got a lot of that work out of the way, and I'm going to get a lot more of that out of the way. And being able to kind of focus on that really kind of, allowed me to drill down on that part of being a quarterback. And so I'll have that kind of in my back pocket as I prepare for games in real situations coming this season. I thought that was really cool because he talked a lot about what goes in, being a quarterback that isn't just practice reps on the field. I assume the sound is, you say you don't really entertain Macho Meach when he asks for the sound, but it feels like you actually do all the time, if I'm being 100% honest.
you got to pick your spots with Macho. But this is real news.
But you don't pick the spots.
You don't pick.
I have no discernment
It's
whatsoever.
all gas, no brakes.
No,
I think that's an
filter.
appropriate approach to the sound.
Yeah. But this is relatively new. Grant Nudinsky is gone to be the offensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Won't call plays, but it's still a promotion for him from assistant quarterbacks coach. So JJ McCarthy already loses a key member of the staff.
Loses a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
Quarterback
This
whisperer
is
in
all
training.
Ben Gessling's fault, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
He spent 2 years on a piece, and immediately he gets hired. He gets 5 OC interviews and gets hired. No way in hell he gets a call without that piece. I'm sorry.
I think people so for people who are unfamiliar, Ben Gessling wrote a piece calling Grant Nudinsky the quarterback whisperer for this season. He's like, who is Grant Nudinsky? What did he do? And it's this great piece about Nudinsky. He talks about how
He
he
spent
goes
like
into
2 years putting it together. Like, this is a very like researched.
It's a really, I recommend reading it, over at the Star Tribune. But he talks about like Nudinsky going off into the woods at some random times at school. He talks about how, did he mention he has a photographic memory? I forget.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Like a lot of these offensive coordinators, they have an eidetic memory. They must be good at their job. But there's a lot of elements in here about like how smart he is and how he's on this rocket ship. And I think sometimes we underestimate the impact that journalism can have on the actual decisions that NFL teams make. I think this is an example of that. I think Kevin Seifert kind of just spilling the beans on what the defense was 2 years ago.
Yes. That was the downfall of the defense in 2023.
It was.
Absolutely.
It was.
Yeah.
Only the Raiders couldn't take advantage of that article. After that, every team just kind of took it to the Vikings.
Well, maybe don't have a defense that one Star Tribune article can unravel.
Well, in that case, that was ESPN. That's a different. Come on, Luke.
Totally different entity.
Different
let
entity.
me,
Okay.
Let me put a bow on this QB conversation with this question. Braun. So last year the Vikings extended the courtesy offer to Cousins, and I think part of them they didn't have McCarthy in the building yet. I think part of them would have been happy if Cousins had accepted what he considered a low ball. Will the Vikings make an offer to Darnold no matter what? Like, do you think the Vikings extend that offer regardless?
I bet there's a number. I just think that number is probably going to suck and pale in comparison to what Darnold thinks he can get if he, pits the Raiders and Titans and Giants all against each other and see who pays more. It kind of seems like that's their move, right? Yeah. Like they just, like when they have an outgoing free agent that they would like to keep, but not that much, they say, all right, well, here's what we will pay you. Take it or leave it.
And what is your number? What would you want that number to be? If you're crazy.
What would I want it to be? I'm pretty bad at that, but what I think it would be, I think it'll be something like 30, 35. And I think he can probably clear 40 on the market just by getting teams to bid next to each other.
That's pretty close to my answer to this question, is that I would probably offer 35, 37, and then I would expect 40, 42 from teams in the market. Something like that.
2 years? 3 years? I mean, I think the term matters considerably here.
And if you say 2 years, I think Darnold's gone. If you come in and say 2 year deal, he's like, nah, I can probably get 4 from somebody. Like,
yep.
Just other teams are going to want him more. Like, there are teams without a rookie in waiting, and he knows that.
Inman, if you extend that offer and you're Kwesi, let's say it's the Mayfield deal, 3 years, 100. I guess, like, are you hoping he says yes, or is part of you hoping, all right, like, we kind of hope you say no, we'd like to move on? I get, like, what is your motive internally when you make that offer?
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me. You got a little choppy, a little
we cannot hear
difficulties.
you.
I got my replay going on because I opened a CBS. Okay, all right.
Go out, come
We're
back
working
in.
through it.
Arif, are the Vikings hoping Darnold says yes to that low ball offer?
I'm trying.
I think hope is too strong a word for that. I think that they've got plans for what it looks like when he says yes and plans for what it looks like when he says no, and that they're not so pot committed to one particular vision of what the team looks like that they need to, get as close to hope, right? I don't think that they're counting on that kind of thing happening. So, yeah, I'm sure that they would be happy if they offered a number and Darnold said yes to that number. But I don't think that this is something that is overwhelmingly important in the way that they have planned this particular offseason to go.
I'm imagining them like offering Sam Darnold a number and then being like, please say no, please say no, please say no. Well, just don't offer it. What are we doing?
Inman, are you with us?
That is a frozen.
Let's try again after the break. When we return, we should hear from Ron Johnson. We'll get into free agency preview and if his tabs will allow us to, Inman's prospect of the day. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags we should avoid. But what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationship, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, even embody that green flag energy yourself, whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, just working on yourself. Therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. If you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. So empower yourself and your relationships. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Minnesota Football Party is part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Please subscribe and check out Locked On Vikings as well. Our audio can be found there. As we await Ron Johnson, we get into this week's free agency preview. We have tackled most offensive positions. We have to get to wide receiver today, which is, I think, adjacent to the Cooper Kupp trade conversation. Yesterday on our Care 11 football party, I tried to get the crew to convince me, make an argument why it would make sense to trade for Cooper Kupp if you're the Minnesota Vikings. And I can talk myself into it if I'm forced to. Tack a bunch of void years onto that deal. He's probably not going to cost that much in capital. 2 years of Kupp leads right into your Addison extension. Then you have Addison after that. Part of it makes sense. You got the KOC connection. I get it. I do not think the Vikings are any of the top 8 favorites to sign or trade for Cooper Kupp. I don't think it's a likely proposition. Arif or Braun, would you like to disagree with that?
No, it's fine. I do not think this is our thing.
And we've got Robo Arif.
Oh, come on.
Oh, he's back.
Right.
You're good.
Wait,
you're good.
Yeah.
Oh,
work through it.
What? Okay.
Rarely does that happen.
No.
Rarely can you recover.
We are banged up. It's the end of the season. Equipment is failing.
Yeah, Luke Inman opened a new tab. Everything has collapsed.
My camera's shot.
Yeah, camera's shot. This is very great stuff.
Should I go to my camera view?
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, obviously you can see the fit with. Seeing that still image of Sam is so distracting.
It's disturbing. If you're on YouTube, it's disturbing.
You can see the fit, right? Like, obviously he's familiar with the offense and stuff like that, and then he does a bunch of the dirty work that you probably don't expect or want Jordan Addison to be doing. And like, there's a role for him in the offense at a certain number for a certain compensation, and it could be a lot of fun, right? Especially, Trent Sherfield's hitting free agency. That's a guy that does a ton of dirty work. You could like cut Josh Oliver. I'm not saying that Cooper Kupp is a tight end, but like, if you need a wide receiver who for no reason is going to block a linebacker, Cooper Kupp will do it. So, like I think that there's a role for him, but it's just there's no way any compensation package matches up for the value that he would provide for the Vikings, given that the Vikings are pretty much set at wide receiver 1 and 2 and are primarily looking for, a 3 or anything like that, which I'm sure we'll talk about in moments.
I do think whoever gets Kupp is it's not going to cost that much.
Yeah. This is
Stephon
one of those
Diggs.
situations where everybody goes, "What for a fifth?" It's like, yeah, man, and they got to take money. Like,
Yeah, but he's
kind of
40. Don't worry about it. He's 40 with
Yeah.
a bad back. Good luck.
Yeah, hurt a
Financial
bunch.
liability, 2 years of liability. It's going to be a mid-round pick. It's almost definitely.
We'll always have 1,800 yards.
Yeah,
Which is, what is his next best season after that? It's not
That's
that
a good
great.
question.
Right?
I should have his Pro Football Reference page pulled up.
Certainly one of the
I got
greatest.
it.
Okay.
Not to say he's a flash in the pan player. He's a good player, but certainly one of the greatest one-off seasons in NFL history.
2019 he got 1161, but those are his only 2,000-yard
that's
seasons.
so nuts compared to the general. And I think the general perception on him is more accurate than what these numbers suggest. But that is so nuts in comparison because a lot of people are like, yeah, he's that 1,800-yard guy. Who knows? And it's like the next best season's 1,100. Man, that is. I think history may remember him as a flash in the pan, but we're here. We saw it. We know he's pretty good.
He is pretty good. Realistically, though, if the Vikings add a receiver in the free agent market, who might they target? They get Naylor back. So I think are you trying to upgrade wide receiver 3? And if not, you're just backfilling Powell, Sherfield. They could easily re-sign. If you wanted to upgrade those spots, I think there's candidates. Give me some names. I'll start. How about another Ram? Demarcus Robinson. Ron Johnson likes him too, but I like Demarcus Robinson.
Let's get some big plays going. That's not bad. Look, it's going to be difficult for someone to come up with a name that I'm going to dislike. Like, maybe Deontay Johnson. I'm like, we don't need to deal with that. But like, there's like not a lot because like no one is seriously suggesting like T. Higgins or anything like that. So you could just throw a bunch of receivers out and I'll be like, yeah, he could compete for the 4 spot. I don't really care. But I came up with some names that I like a little bit more than others, I guess. So I'll just run through them crazy quick. One, obviously, bring him back. KJ Osborne. He's hitting free agency. Let's go.
I'm so into it. I don't care what happened to him in New England. Okay, do not care one bit. Bring him home.
Aside from him, the closest things to big names, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Let's see. Be Darius Slayton and Mike Williams, who I don't think are going to occupy wide receiver 1 roles wherever they go. And probably not wide receiver 2 roles wherever they go. So throw them into the mix. That's fine. Those are probably the most expensive guys that I'd be comfortable with. Otherwise, you can start stealing good stories from other teams like Tim Patrick. He's a former Lion. He's a great story. Bring him in. A lot of people like him a lot. You could get former Ram Van Jefferson. I know you love former Ram, Sam. You can get a player who's got crazy rate statistics, Noah Brown. I liked what Tylan Wallace did.
One Hail Mary per season.
Hail Mary per season.
That's his rate.
Yeah.
Even if you exclude his Hail Mary, his rate statistics are crazy. But I'm also not going to delude myself into thinking he's anything more than a wide receiver 3. But no,
very good for like 3 or more receptions props.
Yeah, exactly. But I like what Tylan Wallace did for the Ravens, especially after they dealt with like a bunch of injuries. He was like still productive. We're probably past the time that this guy is the most interesting, but Olamide Zaccheaus. There's a lot of former Washington guys on this list, by the way.
I was actually going to say Zaccheaus.
Zaccheaus was on our radar man. 1 or 2 years ago.
He's good. I like him.
Really good.
De'Ami Brown is fun if you don't need him. If you need him, he's very annoying. But if you don't need him, he's very fun. So you can throw him on that list. And then, who am I if I'm not going to give fodder to the people that think I'm a secret Seahawks fan? Former Seahawk David Moore. Bring him in. I don't know. He's good.
I think the key here, because, the Vikings don't need him. So somebody like, De'Ami Brown would be very fun. But the key is what the Vikings do need is a punt returner. If they're not going to bring back Powell, they need a punt returner. So which one of these guys actually returns punts reliably? I'm not just looking for a guy with a good 40 time too. Like somebody who has a track record like Brandon Powell of being very safe with those, who won't blow you up,
KJ Osborne.
But we haven't mentioned it, but we should say, I'm not advocating for this, but Stephon Diggs is a pending free agent.
He's available.
He's available.
Who's left in the building that could anger him? Brzezinski. cap guy.
Always
Cap guy.
Brzezinski.
Yeah, some front office like suit.
McCardell wasn't McCardell a carryover?
Yeah, he's not
Keenan
mad at
McCardell?
McCardell. Yeah, he's not.
Right.
Yeah, he is a carryover. He's not mad at him.
McCardell could be the emissary that like kind of smooths things over.
Yeah, actually, he might be.
Yeah.
I remember when the Vikings were gonna trade Adrian Peterson and then didn't, and then offered him a contract extension to come back. And for I don't know, AP was operating with the least negotiating leverage I've ever seen, right? Because the Vikings were like, this is too much of a headache, whatever. And then he's like, no, I'm not showing up. And one of the things that he was annoyed about was at the time, Kevin Warren was still in the Vikings.
That beef was like real.
Yeah.
And it still is.
So Kevin Warren, who I believe is now with the Bears, was previously like
he's like hijacking the Bears right now. It's like
the
whole thing.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
But like Kevin Warren, like the Vikings kept Kevin Warren on despite that. And that was a good decision for the Vikings perspective because he was like one of the lead negotiators for like the stadium deal. And so the Vikings were like, hey, Adrian, you for some reason mean a lot to us at this moment here in like 2015. But no, Kevin Warren's sticking around for a little bit longer.
That kind of began Warren's rise up the ladder, went to the Big Ten, now the Bears. Ron Johnson's going to join us here. Ron on the road. What's up, Ron? Good to see you. He's at 3Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show. Let me get to a topic that we didn't get to in yesterday's football party. NFL honors on Saturday. We got a couple Vikings that are finalists. KOC for Coach of the Year, Sam Darnold for Comeback Player of the Year. Who would be the bigger snub if they did not win?
I'd say KOC. I think Comeback Player of the Year. I kind of am starting to read the tea leaves about the and Sam did win Comeback Player of the Year from another publication though, right? Like, didn't he just win it from somebody else?
I think you're right about that. Yeah, like the Sporting News has been given some out.
Yeah,
the PFWA.
News,
Yeah.
So he did win it from somebody else. So I don't know if that sways anything, if the vote's already in. But I do know, like, by rule, because Florio reached out and, he asked the AP about this and what's the rules. And they just kept saying, like, well, we don't know if Sam Darnold fits because he didn't come back from anything catastrophic besides playing for the Jets. But I think that's pretty catastrophic. Like, you play for the Jets and you come back and you do what you did. That's a big comeback. But I'd say KOC because of the 14 wins and doing it with Sam Darnold, to be honest. Like, Dan Quinn's a first-year coach. We get it. But he had a first-round pick in Jaden Daniels. He had Terry McLaurin. He had Eckler. He had a really good defense. Dan Campbell has his team. He's had his team. And Andy Reid is Andy Reid. He has Patrick Mahomes, and they are, headed to their third potential Super Bowl win in a row. So I think KOC did less with more. Also getting two to three new pieces on the defense. So who knew they would be that good? I'd say KOC would be the snub in my opinion.
Yeah. And I get the criteria that kind of takes Darnold out of contention, so to speak. I do disagree with the criteria, though. I mean, I don't love that Joe Burrow could be a Hall of Famer someday. That if a Hall of Fame quarterback gets hurt, then comes back and performs really well, that shouldn't be that shocking, right? And Joe Burrow, was it a wrist? I can't remember exactly his injury, but I just feel like it was more impressive what Darnold did. But that's just where I stand on it. I think that KOC would also be a tremendous snub. Luke Braun, what do you got?
I'm with Ron. I think it wouldn't surprise me a lot if Sam Darnold didn't get it just because they specifically laid out that it's not supposed to be like this. I'm kind of surprised he's a finalist anyways because he wasn't injured or anything like that. But to your point, Sam, I think Breakout Player of the Year as a new award would be a very fun thing that could kind of capture this. Yeah. And then, the comeback kind of thing could be, people who actually overcame some kind of hardship that's beyond being on the Jets, which is a hardship, but it feels like we're trying to go for something else.
Well, I mean, just like Diddy, like you guys surviving Diddy, or, I feel like there should be a surviving New York, like Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and Sam Darnold all coming from New York and then doing what they're doing. Like it should be a survive in New York series as well. Like I think
Yeah,
that's
going to New York, going to a Diddy party. Yeah, same levels of danger. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Diddy
Ron,
is from New York, so
you didn't see Luke and I.
Arif, you're a robot.
All right.
You're a
Yeah,
robot.
well,
Try-
both of our eyes bugged out big time when Diddy we gotta.
Luke
move on
Inman,
here.
here's
Luke,
what Luke
save
Inman.
us.
Luke, here's what you missed. You just missed Ron starting a sentence with, just like at a Diddy party.
Classic Ron. Classic Ron.
Oh boy.
The topic at hand, Minnesota Vikings football. Luke Braun, you got a question or comment for Mr. Johnson?
Wait, what about Ron's free agent ideas? Free agent wide receivers the Vikings could sign. No re-signings. What do you think?
Free agent wide receivers. I think I talked about this yesterday. I'm driving out, so the name slipped me. But who did I say yesterday, Sam?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember too. You had some good ones. And I'm gonna come up with them. It's just gonna take me a second.
Because I know I brought up like Tyler Boyd was too expensive. I did bring up the Stephon Diggs deal. And I was like, that to me seems too toxic.
You like DeMarcus Robinson. You like
DeMarcus Robinson.
Oh, sure.
from
Yeah,
LA.
okay.
Yeah.
So like a DeMarcus Robinson from LA. There was another one right below him, Sam. There was like a 2.5, because I said KJ Osborne, like a reunion. I don't think it should happen, but if it does, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But DeMarcus Robinson, and there was one other.
DJ Chark, maybe?
Yep, DJ Shark. That was the other one. But I don't know what he's going to require financially now. I mean, he's kind of, not say falling off, but he wasn't what they thought when they originally, when he really got his money. So I can see like a DJ Shark, DeMarcus Robinson. DeMarcus Robinson to me just feels like a bigger body guy that could help out the Vikings in a position that they don't have, which is like bodying guys up in the red zone, first down, guy that's on like 3rd and 5. He seems to be the guy that's forgotten about, seemed to be real reliable for the Rams. And again, coming from the Rams, he knows Kevin O'Connell's like what he's thinking mentally and how that choice route stuff works, how that finding the open zone hole stuff works to get a first down. So those are just two of the names that jumped off to me.
Inman, what do you got for Ron?
Ron, where are you at with the investing in the running back position, specifically with the draft? A couple of years ago, it was all about, hey, teams that make or win the Super Bowl, they don't draft or invest heavily in the running back position. We've talked about it on this show. It seems like kind of the market's recorrected itself a little bit. If the Vikes were to draft a running back, let's just say with their first-round pick, would that upset you? Would you say, no, you go find better value later on day 3 like we've seen in the past? Or maybe does it just depend on the prospect and running back himself? Where are you at with the running back situation right now?
Yeah, looking across the league, man, first-round running backs, you got to really hit on a first-round running back. Like I think second, third round, there's a lot of talent out there that can help especially a team that throws the ball as much as the Vikings are going to want to throw the ball and have been throwing the ball. I wouldn't do it. I mean, it'd be like me telling Tom Brady, let's go back into a crypto, partnership. Like I just don't see the value in doing it. I'd rather get Hatua coins than get a running back in the first round. So I don't see it. I don't see the value in it. Austin Genty, I think he is a generational back, but I also think he's a back that's maybe going to do something for 4 to 5 years, and then you're going to see kind of the attrition of what happens to running backs. Like James Cook, he's going to be up for a deal, and then I promise you, 3 to 4 years into that, they're going to be like, same with Ezekiel Elliott. Like I don't know if it's the amount of pounding their shoulders and head takes and legs within a season, but it seems like rest is better for a running back than being a bell cow anymore. So like Nikki Glazer said, even Gronk knew that wasn't real money. Like I think a lot of these GMs are starting to understand that running back in the first round is not always going to be great for you. Like Bijan Robinson, I think he's really good, but I wonder, is he going to really ever be what the Falcons picked? Or could they have found something else that could have helped them out with what their offense looks like right now?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So, I was asked this on a different show about kind of given the specifics of the way the Flores defense works, is it as important to make sure that you get somebody that has the ability to rush the passer from the interior defensive line? Or is it more important for them to kind of secure, knowing that they need to grab 3 of these guys, secure a corner that has the ability to win on an island? People love those pass rushers. They tend to go earlier. So I just wanted your opinion.
Yeah, I'd say corners. Like, I think the way Flores' defense works, he's going to create pressure with multiple guys and other options, and he's not expecting Aaron Donald or, like he's not. What's the other rookie for the Rams, number 55?
Jared Verse, Fiske.
Fisk.
No, Verse is the outside guy. Fisk, yeah, the other guy.
Yeah.
So, like when you're looking
The
at
real
guys
key.
like that, when you're looking at guys like that, it can Flores live without him? I'd say yes. Now, if he can draft a guy like that, great. But I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of those guys that are really impact interior D linemen are going to go probably earlier and sooner than the Vikings want to go get a pick for. And then after that, like it's corner, because if you think about like the amount of time you have to get home and how well some of these teams played this year that had lockdown corners, and not lockdown, but a guy that like is not going to get lost. And I think that's the key for this. So yeah, it's like I would rather go get another corner just because of how he uses his safeties to rush the quarterback with Metellus. He uses his DNs and that one linebacker, whether it's Blake Cashman or it's Ivan Pace, he's going to send one of those guys after the quarterback. So he has different ways to get after the quarterback without feeling like, I need a 3-tech or I need a nose that's going to absolutely just obliterate that middle 3 of offensive linemen. I think corner is the answer because a lot of the quarterbacks they're going to face too create time with their feet. And a lot of these coaches know Brian Flores, so they're getting out the pocket. They're like, look, let's move the pocket on them, see if they can find me if I'm 4 yards to the right on like a not a true boot, but just like a semi boot. And what eliminates that? Coverage sacks. Get a corner that is not going to get lost in coverage, that knows what he's doing. And if you have to go man with one high, you have a corner that can do it.
Ron, close it out with a score for the Super Bowl on Sunday. I know you like the Eagles. Give us a score.
1 billion to 2. It's going to be a safety. No, give me Taylor Swift is going to score 37 camera angles. That's tough, man. Let me see. I'd say 27 to 24 Eagles.
Yeah, 3-point game.
Eagles are going to be up. Chiefs are going to have a chance to drive to win it. They may tie it up and go to OT, and maybe the Chiefs win it or the Eagles win in overtime, or it's going to be some absolute like BS, and the Chiefs are going to get a call and get the score touchdown, and Tom Brady's going to be mad. But yeah, that's what I'd say. I'd say 24-27.
You heard it here first from Ron Johnson. He's host of the Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays. He's at 3Ron Johnson. Give him a follow. Check him out on this show every Thursday. Thanks a lot, Ron. Great stuff as usual.
Appreciate it.
Quick pause. Luke Inman gives us his prospect of the day, and then we put together a $10,000 Super Bowl parlay next. We'll be making that parlay on FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams. Endless possibilities. No better way to play than at FanDuel Sportsbook. First touchdown, anytime touchdown, MVP, betting the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in the action with hundreds of wagering possibilities up until the final whistle. Live betting features in play as well. It's a very easy app to navigate, and you should take care of this today. If you're a new customer, place a $5 bet and win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl if that bet wins. That's bet 5, get 200, so you have some money to play with on Sunday. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet 5, and if you win, you get 200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, an official partner of Super Bowl 59. I've also put together a winning Prize Picks ticket for you, or entry for you, for Sunday and the big game. It's the best way to play daily fantasy sports. 10 million members, billions in winnings. You can win up to 1,000 times your cash with the correct entry. I'm going a little more conservative. I'm going 3.5 times your cash on this 3-way, 3-leg entry Patrick Mahomes is basically a free win, over half a passing yard. That's the promotion right now at Prize Picks. Saquon Barkley over half a touchdown, receiving or rushing. Add on Jalen Hurts over or more than 213.5 passing yards. So you've got 3 legs to win 3.5 times your money at Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Luke Inman, it's that time of day for your prospect of the day. You've given us Benjamin Morrison, Tyler Booker, and on Monday it was Kenneth Grant, the DT. Today it sounds like we're going a little deeper. Who you got?
Yeah, up to this point, I think the theme's kind of been not only who makes sense for the Vikes, scheme-wise, all that, but also who's projected to be around pick 24, kind of late first-round guys right now. And then I'm sure by the time this is all said and done, we'll go through at least 4 or 5 more options with their first pick. But, yeah, I figured we'd throw a late-round guy into the mix. He's a cornerback from Cal, probably not even most people's top 10 position rankings, pending which, websites you look at or expect. You're all over it, aren't you? Did you see him down at the Senior Bowl?
Well, at the Shrine Bowl, he actually was listed as a Senior Bowl invite, but he actually never accepted a Senior Bowl invite. He went to the Shrine game.
Okay, he went to the Shrine game. I'm curious what you thought, or if you got to take a good look at him. And again, it's tough in some of these all-star weeks or events to hone in on one guy. But target on day 3, I also think he just makes a ton of sense for Flores. Checks a lot of boxes that he would look for. Yeah, Noel Williams, not Noel, Noel, N-O-H-L. No one had more interceptions in the entire FBS than him. 7 picks. He had 8 pass breakups, super productive, kind of just got a nose for the ball. I remember Mike Zimmer talking about one of the traits he always looks for in his cornerbacks after he drafted Jeff Gladney. Just guys who can get their hands on the ball. Doesn't always need to be a pick or an interception, right? Can you disrupt the pass, though, consistently? Can you be in a position to make a competitive play, challenge guys, make them work? He's got enough of those traits, I think, to be encouraged enough to go use a draft pick on him in my book. 52 tackles, 33 solo, doesn't shy away from contact and run support, which I love. And I think, again, he fits Flores as your kind of classic press man cover corner. 6'1", 200. He's long, or at least he plays long on tape. We'll see what he measures in at. Very confident, though, and he brings a lot of physicality to the line of scrimmage as well. People are going to say, well, why is he a day 3 projection then? Physicality probably, if anything, needs to be dialed back a little bit. Probably too feisty sometimes, too aggressive, too grabby even at times, right? But if he can harness some of that kind of eagerness or energy and somebody can teach him how to play a little bit more controlled sometimes versus, okay, now you can take the gloves off and go to battle with somebody at the line of scrimmage. He's also probably going to run in the 4.5s, it sounds like. So we all know sometimes
that'll be why.
The 40 times are way overblown, but for certain positions, wideouts, cornerbacks especially, it definitely can have a correlation to how much success some guys can have. But having said that, he's still not slow by any means, or he doesn't play slow on tape, I should say. But, if I'm sitting there on day 3, depending on the class, obviously your options can get limited pretty quick, especially in like the 5th round that the Vikings have 2 picks for. But I think he makes sense for Flores. Again, outside, man press coverage, fills a huge need, a position of need. Ron just talked about that. And I think they just need some young bodies to develop in that room too, right? Like, let's say they do go Tyler Booker at 24, which I'm all about, and then come back and go get a young corner with one of those 2 fits. Now all of a sudden you got, Mekhi Blackman coming off the ACL, Dwight McGlothern, and then you add in somebody like Noel Williams there. And whether he turns in to be a starter or even just like a nice rotational piece, for a 5th round pick, I think that's a win every time. So Noel Williams, Cal cornerback. Maybe they lose Cam Bynum next month in free agency. Here's a perfect chance to replace one Cal secondary guy you drafted in the 5th round with another one. Keep the tradition, keep the pipeline going. Again, probably not in a lot of people's top 10 cornerback rankings right now if you go look, but productive. Again, led the FBS with 7 interceptions, 8 pass breakups. So let's see what he runs at the combine, though, because those 40-yard dash, those testing numbers, the athletic stuff, that's going to dictate, I think, whether he's for sure a day 3 guy Maybe he can run in the late 4.4s and maybe be a potential top 100 pick. Maybe you got to use your, comp pick, late third round, 90-ish to 100, something in there on him. But, I'm intrigued about him for sure. And then again, we'll talk more about first-round guys, but I like him for sure, especially for Brian Flores.
I thought he looked good in the Shrine game.
Okay.
I didn't do a winners-losers piece. If I did, I think that he'd be in strong contention to have made the winners. I think Kobe Bryant was probably my favorite corner down there, but I think Noel Williams is kind of up there among the guys.
Okay.
Also, before we get to the Super Bowl parlay, Sam, I did look up all of the muffed punts among the punt returning free agents over the past 3 years. So if that's something Luke wanted, we can discuss that a little bit, Sam.
I would like to hear it. That sounds like an impromptu nerdy stat of the day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do that. Do you want to play the graphic?
Yes.
Analytics fans rejoice. It's time to get educated
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now.
with the nerdy stat of the day.
All right, so the nerdy stat is that there are 1,100 punt returns over the past 3 years among this free agent group of wide receivers, 47 muffed punts among those 1,100 plus punt returns, which I wanted to do it in terms of muffed punts per 50 returns, because I feel like that's something that we can kind of understand, right? And so that is 1.5 muffed punts per 50 returns among this free agent group. Now, of the guys that I said that I liked, Olamide Zaccheaus has 5 muffed punts per 50 returns. He is not going to be returning punts for you unless things are in a bad spot. Also, it's going to be tough to beat Brandon Powell. Over the past 3 years, he has 1.67 muffed punts per 50. There's only a couple with fewer. One of my favorite, I didn't realize he was a free agent, so this is actually a guy that I like a lot. Deontay Hardy, unrestricted free agent. So there are some people with better muffed punt numbers or whatever. All of them are restricted free agents. People like Jalen Darden for the Seahawks, restricted. Greg Dortch for the Cardinals, restricted. So it's going to be tough to get them. But Deontay Hardy, one of my favorites. Great returner, has been really outstanding when he's been returning. Has 1 muffed punt over the past 3 years over 58 punts. That's 0.86 muffed punts per 50 returns. And then right next to him is James Prochet, former SMU guy, former Ravens guy too, now with the Browns. 1 muffed punt over 45 returns, or 1.11 per 50. Those are some pretty interesting names. I also liked Kavontae Turpin. I think he's a better kick returner than a punt returner. But he's out there too. 2.5 muffed punts per 50 over the past 3 years. Also, Amir Smith-Marset is out there. I'm just saying he does have 2.3 muffed punts per 50 returns. That is something to kind of
what was KJ Osborne in 2020? Because I think he muffed about 25 out of 50. I think.
Yeah. So I noticed him when I was looking.
Yeah.
I noticed when I was looking for muffed punts. I only looked at punt returns over the past 3 years, but I can super quickly look it up. So it has no muffed punts for him. Remember, this doesn't count fumbles, right? So if you've secured it and then fumbled it, that's not in the stat. So maybe that's something that we misremember. But he only had 11 returns in 2021 and 2020.
I mean, I just remember it being abysmal, right? Like we thought
it was
that
not
Osborne
good.
was a bust because of how bad he was at that, and then the next year he wasn't like a really good receiver. But that's good research. Deontay Hardy and Kavontae Turpin, per Arif. So the FanDuel parlay for the Super Bowl, we're trying to win 10K. That's the goal here. So first question is, what is the input? How are we pooling? Like, what are we putting in to get $10,000? I mean, do we want like just use a round number and say we'll get this? We'll put in $100 and then multiply it by 100
plus 10,000.
Yeah, seems like an easy game to me. Braun, you've been crunching the numbers on this. Why don't you first give us your ticket, and we'll see what we like.
Yeah, well, so I'm the worst at this, obviously. But I did put together.
You're due. Come on, you're due.
You've said I'm due for like 2 years, Luke. I'm due.
You're due.
But I did put together a plus 12,898 parlay, and it goes Saquon Barkley 125 plus yards, which is an alt above his line.
Is that rushing and receiver? Just rushing.
Just rushing.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley, 2+ touchdowns. On the Chiefs side, Kareem Hunt, 40+ yards, a more conservative alt. The big one is a Noah Gray anytime touchdown. And the Philadelphia Eagles money line.
So you do have some, because it's hard to get 2+ touchdowns. It's hard to get 125 yards. But the real moneymaker here is Noah Gray.
Is the Noah Gray. I wanted to put like one spicy touchdown in there, and the rest are just kind of boosts.
And Gray is about 600 plus 600 on the and he's plus 500. I'm seeing. Feels like it should be higher. I thought DeAndre would be an interesting one just because he hasn't been super involved this postseason, and
this
also
is when
plus
you
600.
unleash him.
Yeah, and this is just a big game for him. But I like the Noah Gray angle too.
If you put DeAndre Hopkins is plus 600, while Noah Gray is plus 500 right now on FanDuel. But if you replace Noah Gray with DeAndre Hopkins, this parlay goes down.
Doesn't make any sense. Did it refresh your odds elsewhere?
No, actually, no, that doesn't make sense either. Huh? Okay.
No, I mean, it's been up the whole time I've been recording. I've had the tab open.
Yeah, because I constructed a parlay that went from 12,500 to 13,400 since the beginning of the show to now. So they've been updating live inside the parlay builder. You want to hear mine?
I do.
So it's built a little bit around ref ball. So I don't personally think that the refs are helping the Chiefs, but if they are, that yardage does not, count for Patrick Mahomes' statistics. So,
oh wow.
So Patrick Mahomes under 250.5. Travis Kelce under 60.5. Xavier Worthy under 19.5 longest reception, because it's going to be pass interference. He's not going to catch it, right? But unless there's a palpably unfair act, the refs are not going to, create a touchdown out of nowhere. So someone has to score, and that's Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce's anytime touchdown score. Still, despite that, we have an under 48.5. And then I wanted to throw some Eagles in there too. The Eagles have to catch up to the refs. So Saquon Barkley over 109.5 rushing yards. Very easy line, I think, relative to what he's been doing this year. And then A.J. Brown over 70.5 receiving yards. So all of that together, all 7 of those legs, those ref ball legs, plus 13,441.
Taking a deep breath with that one. You got that. It is so hard to bet against Mahomes and Kelce, and the single play with Worthy makes me nervous. That you could literally get. Yeah,
you're gonna be riding this one the whole game.
It's actually my favorite leg of the whole thing. I love a good Worthy explosive. He finds a way.
Yeah, is it a catch? Is it just a reception?
No. Yeah, I'm saying under on longest reception. So anytime there's a drop back and you're waiting more than 2 seconds,
right?
Like the dander raises, right? You're like, oh, what could happen here? And then
it's that quick screen and he shakes off the first tackle,
the
and
you're like,
defender, and you're like, oh no, is there space ahead of him now?
You know what it's
you got the first out, bud. You can sit down. It's fine.
Yeah.
It'll be a jet sweep where Mahomes drops the ball. Mahomes will drop the ball into his lap on a jet sweep, and it'll count as a pass.
Right, the pop pass, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that would be dirty.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of unders in this one, so it's a lot of tension the whole game.
Right.
Yeah, terrifies me. Inman, do you have any leanings? I like your instincts.
I'm like, I kind of like going with something like a popular player like Jalen Hurts carries, but like bumping it up to like a Daniel Jones versus the Vikings kind of thing. So I think his carries is at 9.5. What kind of value can you get if he had, let's say, 12 carries or 13 carries? Maybe he's got a multiple. Maybe ends up getting a handful of tush pushes in there. He ends up scrabbling quite a bit. The one thing that scares me is I definitely think if they're going to lose this game, they're going to try to get Saquon Barkley at least 20, 25 touches. But anybody have any value? I couldn't find on FanDuel Jalen Hurts carries, but I feel
don't
like
know if they let you put them in
up.
same game parlays, but there is one that is specifically for tush pushes.
Oh, funny.
Oh.
Okay. So you can't do like
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, like over
Yeah.
11.5 carries, 12.5 carries. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, you can do carries too, but there's one if you just want to do the tush pushes. It's like
the
rushing
specials are just
attempts
not
with
letting
less
you
than
put
2
in.
yards to go, not from shotgun.
Oh, funny. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Passing touchdowns, passing yards, rushing yards, alt, longest pass. Because I know we've got. So FanDuel has an 8.
I couldn't find it.
Attempts. I can't find an alt rush
Carries.
attempts.
Yeah,
I
rush
cannot
attempts.
either.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the two that we've got here. We got a 7-leg and a 5-leg. We definitely have a mix. Braun is leaning into the run games. Arif is leaning
They got
in.
next gen stats on here. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's
I was going to
insane. Oh my
include them, but you
God.
can't include them in any of the parlays.
Oh,
but like,
okay.
I
Funny,
think
though.
Saquon Barkley, fastest ball carrier, is a great bet for the odds that
Ooh.
they were offering last night. I didn't check right now.
Yeah.
He has 4 of the top 20 this year, and
Wow.
that's the most of any NFL player. Obviously,
Is Worthy on the list? Does Worthy have
Worthy
Yeah.
has 1
Okay.
in the top 20.
Okay.
So Worthy is the fastest player,
Yeah.
but that's not that
Yep.
doesn't matter.
No. That's different. Yeah.
It's
that's
about
different.
who gets to be the fastest that day.
It's the
which is-
horsepower. Yeah.
Which is a guy that gets into open space, which like it's running backs,
Interesting.
man.
I've never seen this. This is hilarious, though. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, it has
Sorry,
to be
Sam,
on the
keep
Next Gen Stats website. That's how they track it.
Arif is leaning into the Chiefs to not have a great day through the air, but the
Well,
Eagles
the rest
have
help them out.
But
Good
yeah,
day.
to do it just via DPI.
Yeah, they're going to be playing the Joe Flacco pass interference offense.
It's Vikes and Soldier. JJ. Okay, he only ends up with what, 78 yards, but come on now, a lot of penalty yards.
Yeah.
now, too. A lot of
Yeah.
DPI.
There was a great article about the Chiefs and the refs by Roger Sherman at the Ringer, and he like went into all the penalty stats and stuff, and essentially said that like the Chiefs have no unique penalty trends except a lot of defensive holding. And DPI.
That defensive holding is called on their
beneficiaries
opponents?
of.
Yeah,
that
okay.
they're beneficiaries of. Otherwise, the calls go pretty normal for them. And there's just a few like high profile ones that we.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I don't actually believe in ref ball, but like for the purposes of a parlay, which is already an
like
irrational
it is
approach to betting anyway.
somewhat.
Why not?
And I think we learned this as like watching the Vikings. Like some guys get played physical, especially when you have smaller dudes like Xavier Worthy. Like they're gonna try to beat him up, and that's gonna mean you get a little grabby and you maybe get a little physical 1 yard too far downfield, get the flag, or you just try to be like you just get into bully ball mode and you get physical and get flags. It just happens.
Okay, here's what I have. I'm a little shy, but leaning into the passing game would be my preference, and pairing Mahomes and Hurts alt passing yards, maybe going a little below, pick them like a minus 150, minus 200, and then pairing that with an AJ Brown, a Travis Kelce, or whichever receiver you prefer, receiving. So there's 4 legs, then a touchdown score each way gets you basically there.
Sounds pretty standard, Sam. Sounds a little vanilla, but okay.
A little, yeah.
We're not trying to be fancy.
Yeah.
We're trying to win $10,000.
We're not here to friends.
That
We're here to
inherently
make money.
fancy, but all right.
The unders make me really nervous.
They
The
do.
unders
I
make-
know. That's what they're counting on.
Yeah. Arif could have this bet on the side and just win all the money for himself too. I mean, if we reject it, then Arif's probably going to make the bet anyway and cash it, and we're going to look foolish.
If it cashes and I don't make the bet, I'm going to be so mad at myself. So I kind of have to.
Now that you've voiced it, yeah, you do have.
Yeah.
to.
Now that it's out there, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I wrote.
I finally found the
comments-
brotherly shove one, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Over
I
under
wrote in
2.5
the
of them.
comments- 2.5?
That's it.
Yeah.
Feels light. Okay.
Iro in the comments says, does Addison still have one in the top 10? That was in reference to our next gen stats fastest ball carrier statistics. He does. He's number 9 for a 51-yard reception in week 7, where he hit 21.8 miles per hour against the Detroit Lions. Brian Branch with the tackle.
I think we take this $100 and we put it on Vikes 2026 Super Bowl winner plus 3,100. Then we got entertainment for the next, over 365 days.
And if they like go into the playoffs with the 1 seed, we'll have a cash out option, and we'll have to be like,
Oh,
do
baby.
or
if they start 2-7.
Yeah, that's a
and,
thing that'll happen.
Yeah, the cash out would just be blinking at me like at the Green Goblin mask.
You're right. Right.
But the second you cash out, you're dooming the Vikings. So you don't have to-
100%. Yeah.
For sure.
Actually, no, it'd be the opposite.
that'd
If
be
I'm
the
involved,
reverse.
it'd be the opposite.
Actually,
The second you
create
cash out,
emotional
you've
hedge.
guaranteed that they're going to keep winning.
Precisely.
So that's on
Yeah.
us. Yeah. That's on us.
All
I
right,
think
well,
the
I
only
guess that's what we're doing.
I think the only way to do this is to just do all the bets and
Do all
put the
all
bets
four.
together.
Include Luke's futures for the 2025 Super Bowl.
Yes, please. Please.
Just 25 each.
we'll construct them in a way that they all conceivably could win, so there aren't conflicting legs, and then we've got 3 crazy parlays to ride. Because we're not going to come up with this right now. I mean, I feel like
that's
we're
way
all-
too much negotiation.
Yeah, we're all pretty.
I don't know that there's
staunchly-
that many conflicting legs, if I'm being honest, though. Because did you
No,
take
I'm willing to
on-
give up everything that I said. Please don't listen to me. This is not.
Arif,
Right.
I would rather lean into the Chiefs passing game than take the unders. That would be our conflict.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
All right.
if you want to lean Chiefs passing game, for me in real life money, Xavier Worthy has been like the dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's just constantly underrated by the book.
So lean on Worthy instead of Kelsey because Kelsey's going to be too much of a.
Yeah, but playoff Kelsey is good too. But I think those are your
Playoff
two
Kelsey's
guys.
good.
Like
You can do
DeAndre
alt.
Hopkins
You
is
can do
very
alt.
like he disappears for full games.
Yeah, you can do alt and you have a little bit of both.
Ooh, the odds on
Like-
Hopkins just went up to 650 just now.
They're listening.
Yeah, they heard.
Yep.
This is
And
a
Hollywood
line.
Brown is
Maybe
the
that
same.
means
It's
we
like,
probably shouldn't bet him because he's probably.
It's like the Chiefs. If the Chiefs can have a good game, but you don't know which guy it's going to be through, like that's always what makes me
right.
Yeah.
not feel good.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll figure this out offline and then do it.
Yep.
No,
we
let's
will.
keep going. We stay here until we figure out every leg.
And then between now and tomorrow, when can actually place it, the odds will change. Then we'll argue about it again.
Yep.
All right, that's gonna happen. We'll put out what the final ticket is, and if we win, we'll give one lucky subscriber $5, $10.
Let's go.
Well, you better
Are we doing
$11.
$10,000?
end the show.
for
You
lucky
keep
sub-
going up. End the show before it ends up being like
Yeah.
half the pot.
Get out, bail.
Nobody's
Cash
pressuring
out.
you. Why do you feel pressure to keep going up? Nobody said anything. I'll tell you what. I'll give away my Ron Johnson Gen Mint 10 signed autographed rookie card. How about that?
I mean, well, that's way more than $11,
Yeah.
right? So
For sure.
a sweetener.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah.
We'll be back on Monday to talk about the bad beat that cost us on the Minnesota football party. We'll talk Super Bowl and plenty more Vikings offseason. For Luke Braun, Luke Inman, Arif Hasan, I'm Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching, listening, and subscribing to the Minnesota football party.